Justice League Chaos Creator, Rimuru times Justice League, by Yazoo_U. Chapter 7. Powerhouse. Why aren't their numbers dropping? Flash exclaimed, dashing through a horde of parademons and slamming into a wall. They're increasing, Green Lantern muttered, his ring glowing brighter as he formed a massive spiked barrier to keep a wave at bay. Batman, high above the battlefield, was leaping from one parademon to another like stepping stones. Each grapple swing ended with a brutal strike as he plunged gadgets into their spines, using their bodies as footholds. His movements were calculated and relentless, a dark blur in the chaos. He finally landed on the ground, a smoldering parademon at his feet. The swarm's thinning down here, he said, turning to the others. Before anyone could respond, the entire battlefield fell silent. The parademons suddenly broke away from their attacks, forming up and flying toward a single direction. What's going on? Flash asked, skidding to a halt next to Batman. They're assembling, Batman said grimly, watching the sky. The ocean erupted in a massive spray of water as a strange alien device was flung into the air. It was a massive construct, smoking and cracked, as though something had destroyed it from within. At the same time, a towering structure rose on the horizon, taller than anything in the vicinity. From the ocean, a figure emerged. He carried a trident, his golden armor gleaming even amidst the chaos. Who's in charge here? The newcomer demanded, his deep voice carrying over the sound of battle. I vote me. And who exactly are you supposed to be? Superman asks. Batman interjected, his voice cool, they call him Aquaman. Green Lantern stared, his jaw dropping. Wait. First, Batman's real, and now this guy. What's next? Bigfoot? I thought this guy is just a sketch on Conan O'Brien. Be polite, Flash said, elbowing him lightly. Aquaman ignored the banter and walked forward, his eyes scanning the battlefield. These creatures, whatever they are, aren't just on land. They're in the water, too. Then they're not just attacking us, Wonder Woman said, stepping forward. Greetings, Aquaman, what a day for a fight. Aquaman nodded at her, but his sharp eyes locked on Green Lantern. We need bait. Something to draw them out of their nests. Green Lantern crossed his arms, his aura flaring slightly. And I suppose you're volunteering me? Aquaman smirked. It's a thought. Said jokingly. Try it, fish boy, Lantern snapped. Calm down, Flash interjected, stepping between them. Now's not the time for egos. Let's focus on the bad guys first, yeah? Agreed, Wonder Woman said firmly, her voice cutting through the tension. Before any further arguments could erupt, a new wave of parademons emerged from the towering structure, diving toward the heroes with renewed and stronger ferocity. Aquaman grinned, raising his trident. Let me show you how we handle pests in the ocean. With a sharp gesture, he commanded the waters. Sharks, massive and relentless, leapt from the nearby sea, crashing into the swarm of parademons with terrifying force. Their powerful jaws ripped into the invaders, dragging them under the waves. That's effective, Flash said, watching in awe. You're welcome, Aquaman said smugly, turning back to the group. We need a plan. That tower is where they're taking the civilians, and it's where we need to go, Batman said. Superman nodded. We split up. Some of us hold the line here while the rest infiltrate the tower. And who made you the leader? Aquaman asked, raising an eyebrow. Superman stared at him, unflinching. Do you have a better idea? Green Lantern rolled his eyes. Put your differences aside, Batman said, stepping forward. This is for the planet's survival. Unfortunately for them, they cannot enact the plan they had currently. Leave the city for a minute and the entire country will fall. Give me a break, Flash yelled, zipping between parademons to knock them back. Despite his speed, the overwhelming numbers kept pressing the heroes down. Green Lantern made a massive hammer that slammed into the swarming creatures. Stay on the ground. Batman barked as he landed a precise explosive batarang into a cluster of enemies, blasting them back. They're too many. Leave the skies, and the city is finished. Superman's heat vision tearing through parademons, but even his efforts seemed to barely make a dent. The group continued to battle, but for every parademon they killed, two more seemed to take its place. Their efforts, while heroic, couldn't keep the Horde from pushing forward toward the heart of the city. Suddenly, the battlefield was bathed in an eerie glow. A boom tube roared open in the middle of the chaos, its swirling energy casting long shadows across the crumbling streets. "Now what?" Flash exclaimed, skidding to a halt and staring at the glowing portal. From the tube emerged a figure, his metallic body sparking with energy. He stumbled forward, collapsing to one knee. Green Lantern reacted instinctively, creating a massive green hand and grabbing the figure tightly. "Gotcha! Another one of these freaks?" he snarled, ready to crush it. "Wait!" Wonder Woman shouted, stepping forward. "It's not one of them." Lantern hesitated, glancing at the figure more closely. It was a man, or at least part of one. His body was fused with machine, his face twisted in pain. The metallic figure groaned. "He's coming." Rimuru moved with lightning speed, clearing a large part of the city before heading straight toward the chaos where the heroes were fighting. "Who's coming?" Superman asked the downed cyborg. Crack. Rimuru stepped into the fray, his presence instantly sending a wave of suspicion through the group. Everyone tensed, their guard up. "Name yourself," Wonder Woman demanded. Rimuru raised a hand, black lightning crackling from his fingers, and in a single strike, thousands of parademons were reduced to charred remains. "Magic," she muttered. Rimuru's action did washed a wave of relief. "Phew, I'm glad," Flash muttered, wiping a bead of sweat from his forehead. "I thought it was another enemy." He eyed the new figure closely, his gaze lingering on the blue hair that swayed in the wind. "They look familiar," he murmured, but couldn't place it. He fell silent, his curiosity piqued. Batman, observing, muttered under his breath, "So that's why no monsters were coming from that part of the city." Suddenly, another boom tube crackled open. From the swirling portal, a towering figure emerged, a new threat. Big physique, stone-like skin and adorned in armor, its eyes glowing red. "I am guessing that's the bad guy," Green Lantern said. Chapter 8. New God against the young god. A deafening force erupted from Darkseid, obliterating everything within range. The ground quaked, and debris rained down as buildings crumbled into dust. The heroes froze, unable to comprehend the destruction. As the smoke began to clear, a transparent barrier stood intact, shielding them from annihilation. Darkseid's glowing red eyes narrowed with irritation. He growled. A variable he did not foresee. "Which magic faction do you belong to, outsider?" "Magic?" Batman echoed, his voice filled with skepticism. "I should stop being surprised by all these over-the-top, super-earthly things," Green Lantern muttered. Flash and Superman were just as surprised. Rimuru Tempest observed Darkseid calmly. He wasn't entirely sure what was happening but trusted his instincts. He mentally consulted the Akashic records before, hoping for clarity. Instead, he found himself improvising. "Retract your forces and leave this planet," Rimuru declared, stepping forward. "You're the outsider here." That voice. Flash could not believe it. He was a regular customer after all, so it was impossible to mistake this voice to someone else. Darkseid smirked. "Outsider?" His tone dripped with disdain. "I am Darkseid. I conquer worlds. And I do not negotiate with children." As if to emphasize his point, his omega beams shot forth, narrow, searing red lasers cutting through the air. They sliced through military aircraft in the sky with terrifying precision, sending them spiraling to the ground. "No, stop!" Flash screamed, the horror evident in his voice. Superman prepared to act, but the barrier stopped him. He turned toward Rimuru, anger flashing in his eyes. "What are you doing? Let me out." "Relax," Rimuru said evenly, raising a hand. As the wreckage fell, barriers appeared, catching the pilots mid-air and safely lowering them to the ground. Rimuru glanced at Superman. "See? No casualties." Batman observed quietly, processing everything, while Green Lantern bristled with impatience. "This guy's stalling. Let's take the fight to him." Before anyone could act, two figures emerged from a portal behind Darkseid. A woman clad in armored robes wielded a staff, her piercing gaze locked on the battlefield. Beside her stood a towering, robed demon with a twisted, grotesque face. "All hail Darkseid," they proclaimed in unison, bowing before their master. Rimuru's gaze lingered on the demon. Something about him felt unsettling, not just dangerous but unhinged, as if chaos followed in his wake. Rimuru suppressed a shudder. Lowering the barrier, Rimuru addressed the heroes. Listen. Don't act recklessly. This isn't someone you can take on individually. I will handle it. And who decides that? Superman demanded, stepping closer. Who are you? Call me Tempest, Rimuru replied. Magician, whoever you are, Wonder Woman said with a nod of respect, we owe you our gratitude. Enough talk. Green Lantern shouted, forming glowing constructs of cannons and missiles with his rain. Let's see how the big guy handles this. A barrage of energy blasts rained down on Darkseid, who remained unfazed and treats the projectiles as nothing but nuisance. His Omega beams activated again, tracing a deadly line toward Lantern. Before they could connect, Flash sped in, yanking Lantern to safety. Flash, redirect it to me, Rimuru called out, raising another barrier. Flash hesitated but trusted the newcomer. He guided the beams toward Rimuru, who effortlessly absorbed them into his body with a wave of his hand. Lantern scowled. I didn't need help, I could've. You couldn't, Rimuru interrupted flatly. Don't make me babysit you. The armored woman lunged forward, aiming her staff at Rimuru. Superman intercepted her, landing a punch aimed at her torso. She dodged at the last second, retaliating with a blast of energy that sent him skidding across the battlefield. Amateur, she sneered, charging at Rimuru. He's holding back. Rimuru figured when the hero retracted his fist a bit to lessen the impact. Before she could strike, Rimuru gestured. Her body froze mid-motion, a barrier forcing her to her knees. She screamed in frustration, unable to break free. Meanwhile, Wonder Woman and Aquaman attacked Darkseid directly. Their weapons struck with precision, but Darkseid swatted them aside like flies. Wonder Woman held her ground, but Aquaman crumpled, coughing up blood. Aquaman! Batman shouted from a distance. Fall back, we need a plan. Darkseid turned to Rimuru, his expression unreadable. You're bold, outsider, but you underestimate me. Rimuru raised an eyebrow, tightening the barrier around the woman. Let's make a deal. Retreat, and I'll give her back. Refuse, and she disappears. Darkseid's laughter echoed across the field. Without hesitation, he slammed his fists into the ground, causing a shockwave that cracked the earth and sent debris flying. In the chaos, the armored woman created her own portal and escaped. Rimuru blinked in surprise. She escaped, he muttered, frustration seeping into his voice. I really need to get used to not having Seal point out everything happening around me. Darkseid's Omega beams lashed out again, but Rimuru absorbed them effortlessly. Enough, Rimuru said, moving into the offensive. He grabbed Darkseid by the face and slammed him into the pavement, dragging him across the ground. Darkseid retaliated with a punch that bypassed Rimuru's defenses, sending a jolt of pain through his very soul. Clutching his chest, Rimuru realized his pain nullification had failed. What was that? He said, clutching onto his chest. Interesting, Darkseid said, his voice calm yet menacing. You're no mere magician. What are you? Rimuru, wiping dust from his clothes. You'll find out soon enough. Darkseid surged forward, fists blazing with energy, but Rimuru was faster. He dodged every attack, delivering a powerful kick that sent Darkseid crashing back toward the portal. The battlefield fell silent. The heroes watched in awe, their disbelief mirrored in their expressions. Even Batman, ever the skeptic, felt a twinge of respect and fear for this Tempest. He was seeing him both as a threat and a hero. Darkseid rose, wiping blood from his lip. Darkseid raised his arms, unleashing a shockwave that devastated the surrounding area. At this point, Batman's crafted plan was in shambles. He watched the ongoing fight intently, his mind racing to recalibrate. Even Wonder Woman, ever composed, was transfixed by the sheer display of Rimuru's power. Rimuru wasn't just fast or strong, he was better than them in almost every conceivable way. Batman's wariness of this Tempest deepened. Rimuru's abilities weren't just raw strength like Superman's, they were versatile and precise, which makes him a larger threat than Superman. Oh yeah? I can do that too, Green Lantern blurted, his ego as inflated as ever. He summoned glowing constructs of weapons, preparing to fire. Before he could act, Wonder Woman's lasso of truth ensnared him, halting his attack. Stop, she said firmly. Let go of me, Lantern roared, struggling against the lasso. Batman puts the hero down unconscious. He might be powerful, but he's defenseless in any sense possible. He glanced at the battlefield, noting the dwindling number of parademons. There were barely any left. This wasn't just a fight anymore, it was an opportunity. With Darkseid distracted, the heroes had a chance to rescue the abducted civilians. "I'm going first," Flash announced, his voice brimming with urgency. He sped off in a blur, running across the water toward the enemy's tower. Superman nearby, still watching the fight. "I'm staying behind in case something happens," he said, his tone tinged with worry. His eyes remained locked on Rimuru and Darkseid. Better safe than sorry. From a distance, Batman latched onto a retreating parademon, using it as an improvised flight method toward the tower. Cyborg, meanwhile, stood frozen, his systems overwhelmed by the flood of incoming data. Warnings and updates flashed across his internal HUD as he tried to process everything that had just unfolded, while his Wonder Woman prepares for an attack.